What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a nice little practice match that I had between myself playing ShineGreymon Control and YouTube's favorite Lonnie, who's going to be playing DanDevimon. Now, this is not a matchup that I have played in a very long time, probably since BT4, so when I saw the early game, I didn't know what deck he was playing until a certain point where I will figure out that there's DanDevimon, and once I figured that out, I knew that this was going to be a very interesting match because DanDevimon has always been a very difficult matchup for ShineGreymon, in my opinion, just because normally with ShineGreymon you want to go on the board and clear the board, but with cards like DanDevimon where they're going to be able to punish me by either making me discard cards from DanDevimon's on deletion effect or making it so that when I delete one of my opponent's Digimon they are going to get the inheritable of the DanDevimon. So this deck is going to be very interesting and very hard for me to play around, but I have to start going in early. I decide to shine very early, making it so that I can get rid of their ultimate so that they don't try and get up into a mega. The slower I can make the deck go, the better. Now, my opponent did discard the inheritable DanDevimon there, and that is where I first discovered that this was going to be DanDevimon. So as about right here, I have to start formulating my plan of how am I going to play around this, knowing that this deck very much punishes what ShineGreymon wants to do, and so I'm gonna probably either have to just let that happen and just be punished by my ShineGreymons, or go for a different approach with my ChaosGallantmons and such. But Matt's going to come out now, so no memory choking on my opponent's side anymore. And then I do have a couple tamers out, but I don't have my own memory tamer, and I'm going to be looking to get that out here soon because I don't want to get choked. So my opponent's going to be up to 3 no matter what, so I decided to hard play the ChaosGallantmon, which gives me another champion on board as well as one in raising. So I can choose to Digivolve a Rise Greymon on top of one of these if I wanted to. The red would be better on top of the Uni, but I could Digivolve a Yellow Rise on top of the ChaosGallantmon to get another tamer out. And so setting up nice here. I do like the ChaosGallantmon's cheap play cost. This is why I play it, and right here I was very happy just to hard play it. But we are going to see my opponent build up into another Chimeramon in the back. So the only ultimates that we've seen so far have been Chimeramons, which is going to be very unfortunate because usually you want those for the hard play, on play effect, and having to Digivolve them and not getting the inheritables that you want from things like Black War Greymon is going to be a bit unfortunate. But we are going to see the Rise come out, and I can Digiburst and get down the TK, and since it is the red Rise, I will get the on play. So now I have my own memory tamer of my own. If my opponent does get me down to 3 or less security, then I will be gaining that extra memory from Kari. Now I'm able to go in for 2 checks now with my Shine because I do have 3 or more yellow tamers, so the Yellow Rise is now going to activate. And then I get to go ahead and Digivolve yet another Yellow Rise on top of that ChaosGreymon, which is something that I alluded to last turn, and that's going to allow me to play out another TK. And so not getting the effect that time, but now I'm getting a bunch of memory tamers out, and so that way once Shine comes out, I'm going to be able to do a lot of massive damage on the board, and my opponent's going to have a hard time being able to stick anything. Now, it looks like Lonnie was deciding if he wanted to promote or not. We'll promote here. It is a bit dangerous to promote versus this deck, so you have to really consider it because I already have 4 tamers out, so a ShineGreymon is giving minus 16k DP reduction, so any Mega that comes out on my opponent's side is at risk of just being deleted by a Shine, as well as if it is something weaker like a ChaosGallant, as we see, which will only have 12, that means that if I do Shine, I could only spend 3 tamers to pop the ChaosGallantmon and then use the 4th one to give minus 4k to something else, which we see here. I do have a target for a ShineGreymon here, which would be able to clear the board very well and put me very far ahead, but unfortunately at this point I'm not having the Shine in hand. I'm trying to search for it here. And now a situation that could be what would be essentially an auto win with a Shine right here, because I would just be able to clear out a bunch of checks. Deathclaw is not going to activate, but I'm going to get another 2 swings here, but I don't have the Shine, so I'm thinking about if I want to swing here just so I can get the last security check gone and then be able to promote with my Pitomon next turn and maybe play another Digimon to threaten multiple checks. So I decided to do that. My Rise does thankfully live in security there, so just go ahead and play a TK out, and I'm able to grab out this Patamon, which makes it so if my opponent does go low, I do have some recovery, and I want to have that in hand as just a little bit of safety. I would have preferred to have something like a ShineGreymon or a ChaosGallantmon, so that way I could have the Mega on board, but now both my Digimon are suspended, and they can just be swung over if my opponent does choose. Luckily, they don't have the Black War Greymon, which makes it so they can't just unsuspend and swing both, but unfortunately, we are going to see the retaliation retaliation Devi come in and take out my Shine, and then make it so that the ChaosGallantmon can come in, take over my other Rise. So now my board is cleared and my opponent has a blocker, so the plan of being able to clear security and swing next turn is going to have to hold off because I can't do anything now. But maybe if I come into a Shine next turn, I could get something going and try to get the board back in my favor and start threatening for game, because I am losing board right now. My opponent does play a Gazimon. I don't have any Blinding Rays in the list, so that's not going to be too effective, but I'm going to Digivolve into a Rise here. I don't get the effect, but I do believe I hit the ShineGreymon in hand here, so I decide to swing and then go into Shine, so that way I could clear everything off on the board. If I didn't swing there, then the Gazimon would have survived because I didn't have enough to be able to KO both. I had to tap 3 to be able to get rid of the ChaosGallantmon, and then I would have had to tap 2 to get rid of the Devimon blocker. So swinging there made them block, and then made me clear the board, and I had to play around them not having retaliation Devi. But as we see, they are going to have the retaliation Devi go off, and then they are going to go for their triggers and then get their Devimon, DanDevimon out. So now that's on board. Now I'm not too threatened because if my opponent does swing into security, I wouldn't be too upset, just because there could be some good stuff in there, like some more tamers, as well as start to give me the ability to get my Kari going. But my opponent's just going to go straight into Zwart defeat here, or just regular Zwart, which is going to be highly unfortunate because I know that means there's going to be some blockers coming out. So my path to winning is getting a lot lower. My opponent decides to get one blocker and then a Black Hole Growlmon, which is smart because there's no way for me to win right here. Even if I were to Blinding Rain, play Bushi or something, which cards I don't have, even that wouldn't be able to survive or save me. And then I don't have any yellow Lobomons, obviously, so my opponent did make a good choice there and then made it so that they do have the Black War Growlmon on board. But I'm going to have to try and get a wide board state going, or start to try to build up into a Shine, because the board state is getting a little bit scary. And so I decided to play a Starmons here. I can't delete anything off of it, but it does give me an extra swing. My opponent doesn't have any spot removal like that. They can use the Zwart ability to delete one of my Digimon, but if they're going to do that, then that's a lot of commitment for just getting rid of a rookie, so I'm not too worried about that. I still likely am going to have it so I can have multiple Digimon on board, unless they go into a Gallantmon on the Black War Growlmon, which would make it so that they would have to pop one of their own Digimon just to pop one of my Starmons, and they would have to pop the Zwart, because if they pop the blocker, then I just go straight into Pitomon and win the game. So right now, Starmons is putting on the pressure that I need with the Pitomon in back to be able to potentially go for game next turn, and my opponent's going to play the Devi, which is pretty annoying here because I know that means that there's likely another blocker coming in, and that also gives them the ability to go into ChaosGallantmon on top of this Black War Growlmon and be able to delete a Digimon without it being its Zwart or a blocker. And if they can just delete the Devi, which is a bit annoying because I don't want that to happen, obviously, but it's okay because if the Devi goes, that means that there's one less inheritable that I have to worry about of the DanDevi coming out. So we do see my opponent go in for that ChaosGallantmon play, which is going to pop my Starmons, and then they will be able to bring back one of the rookies. I do believe they choose a Guilmon here, but they do put me up to 4 memory, and then at the start of my turn, I'm going to go to 5 because I'm now at 3 or less security, so Kari is going to be able to activate. And now with 5 memory, I am able to essentially hit what is my emergency button here, because I can play the Sirenmon for 5, putting myself down to 0, and then I can either go into the Kentorusmon or the Shine, either of which are going to cost me 3 because I do have the Patamon inheritable. So I'm going to pop both the Chaos Gallant and the blocker with my 5 tamers, and then I gain a memory from the Patamon inheritable. So now I have 2 Digimon out, and my opponent lost their blocker, so they're going to have to put up some more blockers or start removing some stuff on the field. But the Zwart ability is now offline, so they can't get rid of my Shine or my blocker, and if they swing in, that's fine. I'm going to let it happen, but we are going to see the Deathclaw come out, which is going to pop the Guilmon and then delete my Pitomon, and that will just essentially for free, because you pay the 1 memory and then you gain a memory from the Guilmon's effect. So that is unfortunate because I was looking like I was going to have game, but now my opponent got rid of one of my blockers, so now I don't have one of my Digimon and my defense, and they set up another blocker. So despite my opponent being at 0 security for multiple turns now, I really haven't been able to threaten for game, and my opponent is starting to get a lot of their own pressure on board. Now my opponent's going to go into the Vial, so I will go to 3 with TK and then 4 with Kari. Digivolve the Patamon in the Raising. I didn't really want to, but it's the only rookie that I have to be able to Digivolve at the time. So at this point though, I am at 16k, so I decide to swing 16k, and I'm going to target these Wart Defeat here. The reason is because if I swing Security, they're going to block, and if I swing as Wart Defeat, then they're likely also going to block. But if for some reason they decide not to block, then I can get over these Wart Defeat and then go into Valderarm and be able to clear off the 2 blockers. But my opponent is going to go ahead and block there, which as I expected, but I had to play around my opponent misplaying, and like I said, no matter what I did right there, they were just going to block, so it didn't matter. I'm going to play the Pulsemon out for just 2 memory, and then this allows me to get a blocker on top of that, so I have some more defense going so that my opponent can't just threaten to kill me back, even though they've been at 0 security this whole time. And it also saves my ShineGreymon if I decide I want to keep it there, but I am going to just go straight up into the Valderarm here for a couple reasons. One, I want to be able to get rid of this blocker, and I can't get rid of these Wart here because it is at 15k, so I have to target the blocker. But the reason I wanted to do this despite putting my opponent at a lot of memory is, one, this Valderarm is something that they are likely going to have to get rid of, which means that if they swing over it, then I can just let that happen and I'll gain 3 memory, and then I was essentially only playing the Valderarm for 3 instead of the 6, and it's just a lot of good pressure there. It gets rid of the blocker and forces my opponent to either play some rookies and then Digivolve on top for the blocker, or hard play a blocker, but they are likely going to have to swing over this Valderarm, like I said, which is going to gain me 3 memory, which is going to shut them down from really actually having a lot of the memory to make these plays of getting up the blockers and clearing the Valderarm. So my opponent is figuring out what he's going to do. He's going to swing. Like I said, I'm going to let it happen because I'm not too worried about that. I want them to lose the 3 memory here. I prefer that over having the Valderarm, so that way they have a lot shorter of a play, and they are going to play the blocker here. As we saw, they did have the blocker, but they weren't going to have enough memory to do everything because of the Valderarm memory game on deletion. So going to be able to take that game 1. That was a very, very close game, and so my opponent is going to decide to go first game 2, which is a little bit shocking to me just because I'm sure they know that this deck is one that's going to want to go second and be behind, so I would assume that they'd want me to go first and potentially brick, but we are just going to see that they go into the DanDevi, which puts me at 2 memory, which is going to allow me to get up to my ultimate and just putting them at 2 memory. So if they want to go up to their own ultimate of their own, it's going to pass turn. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a tamer in hand for this Rise, so I'm going to have to just let it sit in raising because I don't want to promote it and then have them Digiburst and then go into Chaos Gallant and just pop my Rise. That would put me way, way too far behind, so I have to keep it sitting in there until it's safe for me to go into a Mega. My opponent's going to pop the DanDevi, bring it back, and then pop my Pulsemon on the effect. So now I'm going to be at 2 memory. I decide to promote here because I do hit the TK off the top, which is going to be amazing because that's really just the best tamer that I could have gotten here because now I have the memory and I get to search. I'm going to search out the Shine and just immediately go into Shine here because, again, I don't want my opponent to be doing anything to delete my Rise. It's going to be a lot harder for them to delete ShineGreymon than it is going to be for them to delete Rise. So going into Shine shuts off one of the Demi-Devis, so I don't have to worry about that Inheritable coming out unless they play a Mat to bring it back. But that's shut down for now, and my Shine's going to be relatively safe. And if they decide to go in swing with their Chaos Gallant, I will technically be able to swing over it with the Rise Greymon Inheritable. So they're going to swing, use the Black War Growlmon Inheritable to restand, and then the ChaosGallantmon effect will make it so they get to bring back the DanDevimon there. Now, I didn't notice this at first, but my opponent actually didn't choose to bring the Inheritable DanDevi back and instead brought back the 2-drop. Now, I'm interested why, because if you're going to Digivolve on top of it, I do think it makes sense to bring that one back, but maybe they're waiting to save it to bring back with a Mat, so that way they can get it more guaranteed when they do have a DanDevi in the trash. But that is just a little bit of an interesting play, but I am going to get a Kari out now because my opponent is threatening to swing a lot. They have the Black War Growlmon Inheritable, which makes it they can swing a lot, so if they are going to swing in, I want to be able to capitalize off of that with the Kari. So we are going to see another swing, and now my Kari is active, and they decide not to use the effect to unsuspend, likely because they don't want to get rid of their blocker. They know that there's going to be a lot of aggressive pressure from this deck. They wanted all those blockers at the end of the game, so maybe they're just thinking that they want to preserve the blockers now because they saw how valuable they were the last game. But now I'm going to go up to 4 because, like I said, I do have my Kari on line now, and then Yellow Rise is going to allow me to bring out a second Kari. So now pretty much for the rest of the game, no matter what, I'm going to be going to at least 5 memory, and this is what the true power of these Karis are. And I am going to go into the Kentaurismon. Now I could have swung into the ChaosGallantmon there, and my opponent would have had to block with the blocker, which they would have, and then the Chaos Gallant would have been able to come back and then swing over me. So I decided that I didn't want to go for that play. Going with the Kentaurismon makes it so they aren't going to be able to get a lot of offensive pressure going, and I will be able to get the security attack +1 going with the Kentaurismon and the Rise Inheritable. So that's going to be very valuable for me, because I do need to get a lot of pressure going, because in the first game what I noticed that I had a lot of pressure going, but then wasn't able to get that end game for many turns while my opponent was slowly catching up. So got to be able to get that offensive pressure going. It would have been a little bit better if I could have been able to go into Shine there, probably, because then I would have been able to just get rid of the ChaosGallantmon completely. But the Kentaurismon is going to be a little consolation mega, if you will, stalling out the board a little bit, and then the on deletion of the Kentaurismon is actually going to be pretty valuable here. I am going to swing in. They can't block anymore because they digivolved on top of their blocker, and the very first card I'm going to hit is the DanDevi. Now I'm not too mad because I'm able to now get a -11k to the Chaos Gallant, and then the ShineGreymon is going to give the extra -2k due to its wind attacking ability. So although I didn't get the second checkout, I was able to give the -11k to the Chaos Gallant and then swing in with the Rise to take it out, and then the Shine's going to come out here now after I SirenMon and then just clear off the board. So now I'm looking in a really good position. This is why SirenMon is so incredibly valuable in this deck, because you're always going to consistently be going to 5 so much with this deck, and just being able to have this go straight into Shine mode is very powerful. And now we see my opponent does promote and Digiburst, getting out the Guilmon, so they can go into something like Chaos Gallant if they really wanted to here, but it's not going to be the most impactful because they can't pop one of my Digimon with the effects, so they could consider one of their alternate megas if they choose to, which I do believe they decide to digivolve into the Megidramon here, which is a very interesting card to digivolve into. We do see gonna mill the top 5 of each of our decks. And now, much like what I was talking about originally, how DanDevi does like to punish Shine by deleting their Digimon, this is another card that does, in a way, semi-punish deleting it, because they do get to bring out that Chaos Gallant, which is going to be a bit unfortunate, but as of right now, we're not looking too bad. I have a lot going on board, and I'm able to digivolve into a Rise here, Digiburst once again, and then get out another TK, which can let me curate the board a little bit. Grabs the Pitomon just because in there, I do believe, if I remember my security correctly, it was just 2 Pitomon and a Tamer, so I didn't want to take the Tamer out so that if they hit it, I can get it for free. And then grabbing the Pitomon just gives me a bit of defensive pressure. Now we're going to go security attack -2 on the Megidramon with the Kentaurismon. Now that doesn't really shut down too much, just because what's likely going to happen is they're going to trade into the Shine so that they can play their Chaos Gallant, but I wanted to still at least shut down the security attack because it does have the Black War Growlmon ability, so if they do hard play one of their 2-drop rookies, they can get potential 2 swings with the Megidramon, so had to shut that down with the Kentaurismon. We're sitting pretty decent. If my opponent does want to trade into one of my Shines and then play one of the Chaos Gallants, I'm not looking too bad because I still am going to have 2 attacks to what would be 1 security. I'm going to see that happen. Chaos Gallant's going to come out here now. Can't attack, so my other Shine is going to just be chilling. Now, originally when I was playing this, I assumed my opponent was just going to have to hard play a blocker here, but they actually digivolved into the Zwart. Almost forgot to draw and mill there, but did get that, and then they are going to be able just to bring out a couple blockers here if they choose to, which is going to be pretty unfortunate because my 2 blockers, or my 2 attackers to their 2 blockers is going to slow me down. They have a blocker in the back, so we're looking like similar to the first game where I was getting really close to winning, but the chain of blockers is just outpacing me, but my opponent put me at way too much memory, so Valdararm's going to be able to come out, pop the 2 blockers, swing, and that's going to be game. So GG's to Lonnie. That was a very interesting matchup, something that I haven't played in a very long time. So if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe because I will be having Digimon content coming to you all the time. So if you want to join our Discord, I'm going to have that link down below. We already have a bunch of people in there. We're building a great community, so I'd love to see you there. But with that being said, I will see you next time for some more Digimon content. I hope you have a great day. Peace out.